Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, September 3rd, 2020. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Hey, that wasn't bad at all.
Oh, that was great.
That was pretty good. Well done.
Chloe, we have to thank for that.
Yes, thank you, Chloe, for making that intro piece for us. We are going through the submissions that you out there have sent. Please keep on sending them. We want more intros. Keep them 15, 20 seconds in length. Try whatever musical style that you like, whatever you think, what goes on in your head as you listen to this podcast. And this week it is a duo cast because I got Jeremy Williams here.
What's up?
Looking quite vocalicious in the video.
I thought we'd try it out. I've got the Sony A7 II running the new software that they released a couple weeks ago that allows you to use it as a webcam. They're kind of late to the party, but they got there, and I'm grateful. And this is how it looks. We'll see how it works. Good. I don't know if I will last the entire podcast because I don't think I can actually get power over USB. So we're running on battery, and we'll see how it goes.
That's quite a limitation, right? Are we going to run into Zoom's time limit or your camera's power limit? Oh, there's got to be. I guess your camera probably has a way to do AC power. If you like, there's the A7 II probably. I haven't used it in a while, but I bet where the battery goes in, there's a little tab where you can buy a special battery that fits in the compartment, but then a wire comes out of that you plug into the outlet.
You're right. That must exist, but I do not own it.
Yeah, I'd say if this podcast works out well, if this podcasting thing works out well, Jeremy, you should look into that. You can even get a generic one for pretty cheap on.
I'll expense it.
Yeah. No, you won't. Nice. Your room looks even better under this lens.
It's not warped, at least.
Yeah. I'm just saying the colors are deeper. They're a little more saturated. The natural lighting looks great. Everything about this. High production quality. Well done. How are things going with you this past week? As we move into September?
Man. Are you breathing that fresh air out there? I don't even think it's green yet, but it has been yellow, which is better than orange. And it's the kind of thing here in the Bay Area. We smell smoke most days if we walk outside. And we have been instructed to wear a new type of mask in addition to the standard COVID-19 mask. We need masks that also protect us from the smoke. So some people are wearing two at once. And that's just the new normal. Here we are, 2020.
I refuse to accept that this is normal, and it will. At least, hopefully, the firefighters, the fires will be less of an issue going forward. And the firefighters are doing an incredible job, and they're putting themselves multiple levels of risk out there. So
every year,
it's kind of crazy.
This happens. Yeah.
I left the window open in my office, and it definitely smelled like I'd been laser cutting all night.
Right.
The next day. So yeah, it's not quite what you want to wake up to. But on my end, staying indoors, doing some weekend assembly. There's a video that we're going to be putting out in a couple weeks' time, hopefully before we are 1 month away from the release of Star Wars Squadrons. BT dubs.
Oh, I meant to mention that. This is great. This is fantastic. How are you preparing yourself?
I am preparing physically with lots of stretching, lots of VR playing for endurance. I have now set up my HOTAS setup, and you can see it just to the right of the frame here. But next to my table here is now a full simulator cockpit. It's just the cockpit. It's not a motion simulator. It doesn't like move on any axis or anything. Well, but ergonomically,
you got the butt kicker on there, and you got your haptic shoes that you can wear. So it's kind of a motion simulator. I mean, a little bit.
I have rumbles. There are rumbles on multiple points, and also force feedback on the steering wheel as well. But for the HOTAS setup, part of the video, and I'm not going to give too much away, but it's going to be a kind of a hierarchy of if you want to enhance your flight sim experience or your squadrons experience, what are the things that are kind of extravagances, and what are the things that are, that immediately give you a lot of benefit. And obviously, a flight stick is going to be incredible. Although I bet the game will be a lot of fun even without the flight stick. But like the haptic feedback, I think is really high up there.
I
Yeah.
think there's going to be an interesting line between like enjoyment and capability, like ability to play the game well. I don't think those two are necessarily going to vend. I think that playing with a VR headset will have certain advantages. It will also have certain disadvantages because there's a lot of maneuvers that you're going to be able to do in this game, like swooping 180s and just crazy, camera control that you might find nauseating. And so I'm not sure people will be, quite as free with their flight, abilities as they would just on a flat screen. On the other hand, you'll be able to see around yourself a lot better. You'll be able to look out the windows and in all directions. You might have a better sense of presence and being there and where your enemy might be. And it's going to be more immersive, almost certainly more fun. Like if you just want to be in the Star Wars universe. But I do wonder if the best players will be in VR. I don't know.
Oh, it's a really good question. I think that that's true with so much of competitive gaming in general, where immersion and success don't go hand in hand, where you had people turning down the graphic fidelity on their cards so they can better see enemies at a distance and draw distances and that kind of stuff. Where, I'm always of the mindset where I want to be more immersed in the fun I have, even if it's single player, even if it's not directly against enemies. If I can play in my head being the character that I've always wanted to be in Star Wars in this game, I'm going to go for that.
Me too. And that's exactly what 100%. And I think we're going to have the most fun possible playing with friends in that case, because if we do try to go into the competitive matches, it's going to be like Rocket League or anywhere else where it's just, chat spam and people are disappointed with me. And I end up feeling depressed at the end of the day. So play with me, Norm. When the game comes out, play with me.
And we will play for the role playing aspect, less for the high score aspect. We can lean more toward the that's what simulators are for, right? I think like simulators, people enjoy simulation games because of the role playing. I think you start speaking and using the lexicon of that world and all the shorthand, and yeah, that's fun. That's the kind of playhouse stuff that the sandbox experience we all wanted when we were little kids. So absolutely. Is there co-op in this? I don't even know. I know there's single player, there's multiplayer. Is there a co-op like campaign?
Like I'm not sure. I guess the way that it would work is if you can play against AI, just play the multiplayer with bots on the other team. That's how I imagine it would work. I doubt that preamble thing is a co-op experience. I think that's probably single player.
Yeah, I know the multiplayer campaign, quote unquote campaigns, are supposed to be sprawling. It's not just going to be your deathmatch skirmish. There's going to be tiered levels of back and forth, the push and pull. And so, yeah, we'll do that. Absolutely. All right. Well, then let's move on to our top story.
Story this week.
Now we're going to start with a tech story, which I know is not necessarily the story on everyone's mind, but it is relevant to what ostensibly is the theme of the show, which is technology news. And this is something that we knew was coming. We didn't know the details of. There have been leaked specs and benchmarks, but NVIDIA has finally announced their 3000 series GPUs. And whether it's the competition from AMD or where they are in their architecture, this looked fantastic. Like there was all good news out of this, to a point where I was really worried about supply. Maybe the state of cryptocurrency is such that it won't be as in high demand and people aren't going to be banking their cards to do some mining. But let's talk about the lineup. So the 3000 series got the 3070, the 3080, and now a 3090 of their Ampere cores. This is, of course, all RTX, things that they've been pushing for since the 2000 series. And the big number they showed was at their 3080, it's twice the performance of the 2080 Ti.
Boom. How much is the 2080? I was going to ask. It's $1,000 card.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that this presentation was coming. And the way I found out about it was I heard shrieking coming from the other room as my 13-year-old son started screaming, "Dad, Dad, the new NVIDIA cards are being announced. And he ran in to tell me. I was like, well, son, I'm in the middle of some work. I can't check right now. But he was giving me the download about everything that happened. And then, of course, I read up about it. But yeah, the 3080 is what I'm waiting for personally, because I have a 1080 right now. I skipped the 20 series. And I think this is like I made the right move. The 20 compared to the 10, it didn't seem like that much of a leap.
Well,
They added the RTX features, the ray tracing, but in terms of like, gigaflops, it wasn't terribly impressive.
Well, not only that performance update, because it really was a feature update, and the pricing was also at a point where they did not have the competition. They were doing so well. Demand was so high because of cryptocurrency mining. People were burning out their 10 series cards that they were really in a position of strength there. And not to say they're not here, but AMD wasn't pushing them as hard either. And so the 10,000 series, right? The Pascal series of cards were a huge jump, and in terms of power efficiency, in terms of just how much performance they had, and so they were able to milk that a lot over the 900 series. 28 series, honestly, it was overpriced. Right, you're talking about $1,000 at the TI edition, the $700. That again, if you had a 1080 and the games, the hardware, the displays at that point, we're talking about mid-generation console ports, or on the PC side, most people still playing at 1920, P resolution, and maybe 144 hertz. You want to get that. The 1080s were fantastic at that. VR being a kind of a requirement for something to increase the need for the extra processing power and the GPUs. Everything at that point, the Rift, the Vive, right? We're talking about pre-index, pre-reverb, even the Windows Mixed Reality headsets with the higher resolution, that ran all fine on the Pascal series cards. You haven't had any disappointments.
No, but I'm also only running. I am running VR, but I don't have super high res monitors. I don't have 4K monitors. I'm not. I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, I don't need to max my settings out to make myself feel good. That's always the chicken and egg with PC gamers is like, do you have the system that can run Crysis at max settings, or do you just want to play the game? And I'm more of a just play the game kind of guy, but I'm assuming that we're going to enter into a new generation of VR over the next year, and I'm going to want as much power as I can get. And it sounds like this 3000 series is right on time for that. I'm excited about it.
So they have a chart that they put out that kind of is price against relative performance, because performance is a tricky thing. That's why the reviews are so important, because of the configurations, because of the engines that you're testing this on. Like, all this stuff needs to be contextualized, but based on their kind of arbitrary metric for relative performance, the 3080 is 2 times the speed of a 2080. Not the TI, sorry, the 2080, and definitely over 2 times the speed of a 1080 Ti from that Pascal generation, and it's going to be $700, which I know that sounds great, because in the context of how expensive the last generation was, it doesn't sound overpriced. But $700 is still a lot of money for a graphics card.
It might even be more than a PS5.
I would say it's very safe to say that's more expensive than the PS5.
Yeah, well, me too.
No,
me too. I'm just suggesting that we don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know. That's right. The 3070 will be priced at $500, and the 70 lines has always been that really nice sweet spot for performance and price. And $500, which used to be, if you think about 10 years ago, that was the most you want to pay for a high-end graphics card. But this, they kind of like established sweet spot is $500. The high end 700, and then for those with unlimited budgets, there's also now the 3090, the BF GPU, and that will be, what is that?
So dubbed by John Carmack on Twitter.
Well, no, they said it Jensen said it in the presentation.
Oh, from his kitchen?
Yeah,
that's great. I just saw
it was on a slide. The 3090 is going to be $1,500. And their whole thing is that it's going to be capable of 8K or VR essentially.
But it's also it is a massive card. Like you need
Yeah,
to big. No,
it's
thank you.
it's one big PCI, but the flagship card, right? Interestingly enough, so new power adapters. These are 12-pin power connectors from your power supply, and most PSUs don't have that. Partner cards, like coming from ASUS, will just use the two 8-pin connectors, but NVIDIA is pushing this new 12-pin one, which might make installation easier because it's always been kind of finicky to do like an 8-pin and a 6-pin or two 8-pins. That's one of those places where my finger always gets caught on something. It's going to have all your, standard support, HDMI 2.1 for bandwidth, all your HDR output and everything.
Just went away.
Yeah, I guess it was because Valve never really jumped on board it, even though there was some official support from other VR.
The single port that would allow you to transfer everything you needed, power and data. Right.
One cable, power, and the video signal, just not enough bandwidth for the frame rates needed. Obviously with index up to 144 hertz. And also...
do you know if all of the cards that they announced will use the same power connector, this new 12-pin?
I know at least the 3080 and the 3090 will. Okay.
Because sometimes series or the 60 series. So I wonder if that's going to be the case or not, or if they finally just standardized the power requirements across all their cards.
Yeah.
They just all need all the power.
31.5 centimeters. So do the conversion to imperial. That is 80. And you're right. It will be wider too. It'll take 3 PCI slots.
It's a big card, man.
That's a massive card. A 350 watts of drain just on that card. Minimum power supply required will be 750 watt, and that's assuming you don't have, power hungry CPUs and drives. Availability is soon, right? 24th for the 3090. I think the 16th, 17th orders. Don't know how supply constrained they're going to be. Like this is one that, yeah. He did say this card is for you, Jeremy. He says Pascal users, 1080 series, 1000 series users, it's now safe to upgrade. They're very aware of how the upgrade cycle for users, and it's been well over a couple of years since that launch. So, all right.
Okay. God, no.
How proud were you though when he ran into the room, when you heard screaming that your son, was so into? We're not talking about like an Apple keynote. Like this is a GPU keynote.
Yeah,
right. Was there honestly quantified there?
It was more like what?
Like, is he downloading 3D Mark, and is he like trying to get on top of those leaderboards?
His new PC. Yeah, there was. Yeah, the day of that. So I'm sure he would love to be even faster.
Did you see the videos they put out, like the Marvel, the lighting demo cards?
No, I was curious about that. No, I'd love to see that.
There's, I think, who has some good screenshots? And Ars Technica probably has some screenshots. You can find them on YouTube, but they had those. But the biggest comparison, maybe I can find the link to share with you on Slack. If you just go to, the thing that struck me was that it's an aesthetic. There's some of it that's almost an aesthetic choice. Like we've been so trained to see what really high exposure, so they don't have to do some of the more subtler effects. And the nuance that ray tracing brings is some spectrum of brightness here. And here, it's more nuanced in the amount of light that's bounced between the objects, what realism looks like. Because it's all believable. Like you look like something from 2 generations ago, box of like, okay, now it's photoreal, right? There's a range of what photoreal can mean.
Each generation of graphics cards allows developers to stop using tricks and start using the real deal. And ray tracing is certainly a huge technologies to sound reflections. You can apply it to going to be. You can do insanely complicated calculations. So I'm just excited to have that technology on board now. Besides the fact that this eventually could lead to a Pixar quality rendering that we have enjoyed for decades.
You can do gravitational calculations. With ray tracing.
Yep.
Sorry, our silent third party not here. All right. I really want to get one of these cards.
Great, do it.
It's a solution. I want to bump it up. And
exactly.
Yeah, very exciting. All right, let's move on to pop culture. Unfortunate and really devastating passing of Chadwick Boseman. This came as a shock to everyone. I think it's safe to say, and the effects of which I think we're all still kind of dealing with, certainly in the fan community, but just the appreciation of him as an actor, and as a role model, and as honestly a symbol, in terms of representation in film and pop culture. His loss is staggering. And I've just been, it's been real tough even to read a lot of these remembrance pieces, because it just, it brings to bear what was lost, and what we'll never have, which is more performances and sounds like a wonderful human being.
Ryan Coogler wrote a wonderful remembrance of him, where he revealed, the director, obviously, of Black Panther. He revealed he didn't know. He didn't know up until the day it happened this week, that that he had cancer at all. And he was busy writing. He was busy scripting the sequel to Black Panther. For the past year, writing words that he would eventually say. Just speaks to the level of privacy that Chadwick Boseman had about this issue, and which is such a generous thing to have done in a way, just to have kept that to himself while he was giving so much. This death, more than, I don't know, we've lost several celebrities this year, and it's been heartbreaking, but this one really especially hit home for me, just because I feel like his work really mattered. I feel like he was doing work that made a difference, and we need more of it. We need more of it this year, especially.
Yeah, the fact that he knew even back when he was cast as Black Panther and gave so much of himself, that generosity, the roles he did, playing not just, of course, T'Challa in Black Panther, but also Jackie Robinson and James Brown, and like it. I think it makes us all kind of try to reconcile with mortality and the time we have, and I think hopefully give us a better appreciation for the people in our lives and what we want to do in the world. And we certainly, I can't speak for what he meant for so many people that he represented, right, on film. And it's just like it's heartbreaking. And we'll never watch Black Panther the same way again, but we absolutely will appreciate that role.
For sure.
Yeah. Moving on to Netflix. This is a surprise and something worthy of discussion. I'm almost going to wait till we're going to absolutely talk about this more as this announcement develops more. But
are you talking about the 3-body problem?
The 3-body problem, yes. Which for fans of Tested and our podcasts, it's something that it's a book that we were big fans of. It's a trilogy of books, and I know Will's gonna have a lot to say about it, so we might get an opportunity to maybe bring him on the podcast to get his thoughts on it. But the news is that Netflix is adapting this as a show, and who's adapting it were the previous showrunners of Game of Thrones. That's David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. This is their big project after they had previously announced that they were going to do a show with HBO that then got canceled because it clearly wasn't the right project to put out in this moment, and I think we're going to be agreed on that. But they signed this huge deal with Netflix, and they are going to make this show. And among the list of producers are Rian Johnson. Also,
really,
yeah.
God, everybody's behind this one. So you tell me, are you optimistic about this? It's sort of like, it sounds like a dream team to me. I have not read the book, so I don't know if. Do you feel like this, if they need someone a little more avant-garde, or who might be coming at it from a different, less mainstream kind of approach? But this is sort of like Spielberg directing Ready Player One, where it's like, okay, that's perfect. It sounds to me like this is the shoe-in.
I would say the only appropriateness is that these showrunners have a lot of experience adapting from complicated text to screen, which Game of Thrones absolutely was. Unlike Game of Thrones, thankfully, this is a completed story. And so they're not going to be inventing things on their own. Hopefully, obviously, every adaptation is a transformation in medium. And even the books themselves, the localization of translating from the original Chinese to English was done by science fiction writer Ken Liu, who is going to be a consulting producer on this. So that gives me hope that, that the themes won't be hopefully as lost in translation, because we're talking about from Chinese to English, then culturally to the screen. And so much of the book is high concept. There are, ideas of virtual reality, of metaverses, of hard science fiction, like real hard science fiction that I'm going to struggle to see. I struggle in my mind to see how they can be adapted. But also, there are some core themes of the book that are tied to the Cultural Revolution in China. It's an alternate history book, essentially.
Yeah, when I learned that, I looked up to see if the book was ever banned by the Chinese government. Apparently, it wasn't. Even like no bans, no censorship of any kind. Even though the book does take a negative perspective on the Chinese government.
And that's a complex topic, right? Like of its kind of its criticism of the government, of certainly of the suffering that happened during the Cultural Revolution. And I hope these are themes that will not be backed away against, because they might not gel with what Netflix thinks is their audience. And so I really hope that people pushing this on Netflix will let this stand, and maybe even see this as a way to not just tell a story for a kind of a US based audience, or more of an international audience, because it's a big story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds great to me. Are you looking forward to it?
Absolutely. I mean, like, this is one of those things where I would love to see adapted in some form. And then it's been adapted. Like, there is, I think, a film in China about the three body problem that you can find and you can watch. And there's also, I think there's like a stage play I saw recently of this. So it's definitely it's a popular story, and this will be just an adaptation. I think what's hard to do is separate adaptations from the original source material, because fans want adaptations, want the visual representation to be as canonical and as defined. And I understand that, because I understand there are only so many resources. You're only going to get so many chances to put this much money behind a topic you love, a piece of writing that you love. And so that's why fans feel invested in this. And I'd say separate yourself from that. Like, I'm going to keep my expectations low, be happy for them to surprise me. The book will always be the book. The translation, Ken Liu's translation, will always be that version. And I'm glad we're going to get this for what it is. And you know what? If it's a failure, right, there's going to be another opportunity 30 years down the line. Dune came out. We're getting another Dune at the end of this year, right? Science fiction endures. There'll be new stories to fall in love with. So yeah, that's
good perspective. You are a wise science fiction fan. How do you feel about Mulan, which comes to Disney Plus this weekend for how much? $25?
$30.
$30.
$30 to unlock. We've talked about this extensively. I'm still soured by the Disney decision. I understand, like, even in parts of the world where theaters are open, they're not putting this in theaters, which I think it's such a disservice to the filmmakers and the production team who made this to be seen on a big screen. And I get the business decision behind it, because they want to find this is their case study, right? This is, in this scenario, in this unique time, with the data they know of people who are subscribed to Disney Plus already paying, $7 a month, however many per year, will they pay an additional amount to add this to the service?
They kind of have the data point of Onward already, which was like how many people will watch it who are already subscribers. If we release a film that was supposed to be in theaters to Disney Plus for free, they have that metric.
Well, they have three. They had three things. They had
Hamilton.
Well, you're right. They have so much data. They have Frozen. Remember, Frozen 2, they're happy, did over $1 billion, like $1.4 billion in theaters internationally. And then they dropped on Disney Plus early release. Right. So they got rid of their own rental sales because they wanted to bolster Disney Plus. So they have that as a big valid data point. You're right.
But Onward was a premiere.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't theaters. It was the worst timing. It was in theaters for like a week and a half, right when theaters are shutting down. They spent the money on the marketing.
Oh, that's horrible.
Didn't do great. And so then they tried to salvage it by then making it a Disney Plus a soft launch there
Right.
as one of the premiere titles. And then they had Artemis Fowl, which again was a movie that was supposed to be made in theaters, not critically well reviewed, and dropped on Disney Plus. They have the numbers of there on how many people wanted to see that.
Yep.
Hamilton, of course, which they dropped $70 million on, and then this film, which they did a premiere. Right, they had at in LA a LA premiere. They did all the marketing, and again, the timing, I would say, probably more. I don't even know if this is like comparing to Onward makes sense. Like, would I have been happier if Mulan came out in theaters and did so poorly? No, it would have made so much money that first weekend. But yeah, it's such a unique scenario. We'll probably never have this case again, where they put hundreds of millions of dollars into making a movie and then made the decision to charge this much for it under a service just for a data point.
Right. So I'm wondering, like, if well, first of all, of course, I wonder if this will happen again, because if it is a success, I could see this happening quite a lot. But I wonder if they are regretting not having charged for Onward or even Hamilton, or something else that they did bring for free. I mean, obviously, like those were. I know you say Onward was in the theater, but most people didn't have a chance to see it there. I think those were pretty much premieres, that people might have paid a premium for. It's an interesting idea that a premium service can upcharge for yet another level of service. So I don't know. We'll see if this is a success or not. I'm kind of betting against it, despite the fact that I'm going to drop $30 on it because my family's been looking forward to it, and I, as a family of four, it actually makes financial sense. It does not make sense to me at all that it's only on Disney Plus. I think we talked about this with Kishore. It should be everywhere. There's no reason to sell it only in Disney Plus. I mean, even if you know, I think it should even be cheaper on Disney Plus. Like, if you're going to sell it there, sell it at a discount, and sell it everywhere else for a little bit more of a premium. But there's a rumor that this will drop on Disney Plus for free in December. Have you heard that?
No, but that makes sense.
I've
Right?
heard that from multiple people.
That absolutely makes sense. They're considering the $30 that they make from this as the box office sales, and when the movie would have then gone on for rentals, or it'll be on iTunes, it'll be in other places where you'll be able to buy it and rent it. Like that's that there's no reason that revenue stream goes away. You'll be able to buy the Blu-ray, the hard copy, right? At the same time, they'll use it again to bolster the Disney Plus numbers by making it part of the streaming service.
But dude, you if you buy it on Disney Plus, it's only on Disney Plus, right? And
True. Yeah.
So once it goes free, that money is gone, because if you cancel your Disney Plus subscription, you lose it either way. Whereas if you were able to buy it somewhere else, it would go into Movies Anywhere, and then you could watch it on any app that you want.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's a tricky scenario, right? The analogy you're talking about is like, they would come to you, and Mickey the Mouse would say, "Hey." He'd ask for his bag of cash. So you go watch my movie in a theater, and you don't get to watch it anywhere else, right?
Right.
But maybe that's a model that needs a shift. Maybe that's something going forward, where you pay your price for the ticket at the theater, and then your voucher, your ticket stub, gets you a discount to rent or buy the film later.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of the ebook, physical book model, and that whole debate on that.
We'll see what happens. I mean, it's a shame that these filmmakers who are artists have to get their work tied up in this experiment. I feel like that's a shame. Like you were saying about the Onward guys who got the shaft on the theatrical release of their film. But it's 2020.
Yeah, strange times. Here's a feature I know you won't be using. But the rumor is, and this is in the JavaScript code, that Disney will be launching a watch party feature, much like Netflix has on third-party sites, for Disney Plus, so that you can sync up with your friends and watch a movie at the same time, and maybe even have some, however it's implemented, chat functionality or some type of group viewing experience. Not of interest for you.
No, man, like, I get upset if people yawn too loudly in a movie. Like, I don't have any interest in that. However, my family might. My daughter now does this weekly thing with her friends in 5th grade, where they all sit in front of the TV, load up a movie, and all hit play at the same time and have a FaceTime chat going. and they just watch a movie together and they love it. So, I mean, if they could have control over pausing simultaneously or some other feature, maybe they could make a graphic show up on the screen and everybody sees it. Great. I bet that Disney will do this right. I think they'll probably have some fun implementation of it that, the Netflix hacks that we've seen do the same thing, or even Amazon's implementation, which is pretty bare bones with a little chat bar. Everybody can sync up their viewing experience. I don't know. I think Disney will do it right. I'm curious to see what they do.
Given how disappointed I am with Disney Plus as a user experience on the server, on the app side so far, I doubt it. There's so many bugs they need to fix that they just don't understand their users. They know that people watch Disney movies with their kids, and kids, when they watch a movie, it's not because they just want to watch it the once and then have it go back into the library. Like when I add something to my list, it's because I know I'm going to watch it with my kid hundreds of times. Don't take it off my list once it's finished watching. Like that's just the top of they need to do more focus groups and get better feedback, because it is not the experience I want right now.
Yeah, I guess it's strange to see companies that have so much money and are so successful in some realms try to do software and just fail miserably. It's hire game developers, people, and they'll do it right.
Or put more money in that department. Right?
Yeah,
it sounds like this is an accounting thing. Okay, last bit is that, let's sticking with Disney, that there's an announcement for the season 2 release date for The Mandalorian, and it's going to be October 30th.
2 months from now.
Came up much sooner than I thought. It feels like there's something that's ways away, but I guess come that time, we'll be like a year since the premiere of The Mandalorian.
Well, it's just impressive given that the production halts that have had to occur this year. I'm amazed that they were able to do this. I'm very curious to find out how they pulled it off. Did they go to another country? I know that The Matrix continued their filming in New Zealand, for instance. Like, I'd be curious, maybe they just did it all, in closed sets in LA. Who knows? But it's great. I can't wait. This is fantastic news.
Yeah. Obviously, without going deep into the kind of spoilers, there are new characters, familiar characters are slated to return. I'm interested to see what the new slew of directors are going to bring to season 2, and how they're going to also make great use of their volume technology.
You're talking about the set with the big screen in the background?
The LCD wall. Yeah. Now that, it's a little too late for them to make use of Unreal Engine 5, but that's going to be a possibility, right? Going forward for their production, and of all the growing pains they went through for season 1 and now through season 2, whenever they inevitably do a season 3, it's hopefully only going to get more impressive. Yeah.
It's just great that they made it. Like, any season 2 benefits from the perspective of the first season, and not just the filmmakers, but the fans, and they get the feedback, and I think it'll just come into their own. I expect great things. I can't wait.
They're gonna Disney it up, Olaf it up. Everyone loves Baby Yoda. More Baby Yoda.
The child? You mean
the child? More of the child. I just got an email from the Sideshow. They are the ones doing the full size replica of the child, and they just got their final production samples, so they have photos of what that actually is going to look like.
What do you expect that to cost?
Oh, I mean, they announced that already. People pre-order $350.
Wow.
Yeah, I did my pre-order late last year. Early this year, whatever.
Half a 3080 card.
I know. Stop putting everything in terms of which is only 2/3 of an iPhone. Jeremy,
I know.
Let's put that in that context.
I know. Which also
phones are expensive.
Yeah, and I'm 3 generations out, so this is an expensive year.
Yeah. Save on parking. Eat lunches at home.
Yeah, and gas.
You're right. And gas and your Disney Plus subscriptions. All right, before we move on to our next segment, I want to let you know that This Is Only a Test this week is made possible with support from Storyblocks. Now, more than ever, storytellers and content creators like us are challenged with producing more video and content at a higher quality and distributing on more platforms than ever before. Storyblocks makes it easy for creators to keep up with the growing demands of modern video content, so you can bring all your stories to life and stop sacrificing your vision due to time, budget, or resources. Storyblocks is the world's best stock media service, offering video, audio, and images with the most affordable subscription plans and tools on the market. Their ever-growing library is over 1 million high-quality stock assets, including 4K footage, After Effects, and Premiere Pro templates. Those are super useful. Music, images, sound effects, and more. And their assets are royalty-free, so you can use your content anywhere for commercial and personal use. With Storyblocks' unlimited all-access plan, you get unlimited downloads of everything in their library, so you can try out multiple options and find the perfect fit for whatever it is you're making. And even if your subscription ends, everything you've downloaded is yours to keep. That's really incredible. And one of the best parts about video production is tinkering with music, sound effects, and After Effects. That can really level up the look of your video. So explore their library and subscribe today at storyblocks.com/onlyattest. Again, that's storyblocks.com/onlyattest. And now we move on to our next segment.
I have no idea what that even means.
So they did this, they and people were like losing their minds. What type of collaboration could this be? Are we gonna be able to? Are the designers at IKEA making Lego sets? What I could have expected, but certainly not a storage box, an IKEA storage box with Lego studs on the top.
So it's like a big surface for putting your Legos on. Is that the idea?
That's the idea. And we're not talking about big tubs either. It's, I can't even pronounce this. It's a collection known as Byglek, Bygglek.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically, it's small rectangular boxes with little Lego windows in them. Some of them actually not that expensive. $15 for a large box, $13 for a small one. Smaller ones even is in public domain. Minifig, maybe not, but the branding is strong. And
that's true.
You know, now when people go into IKEA with a Lego brand on them, and you know, IKEA and Lego both do great instruction manuals. So I'm really curious to see what their instructions look like for this, if they even come with instructions.
I gotta ask, have you started the Nintendo yet?
No.
And I'm telling you, that like other builds are just Lego builds. Like this thing does stuff, both the console and the TV, and it's so smart. And then there's just like Nintendo charm in it. They knocked it out of the park. I love it.
Oh, I'm very looking forward to it, and we'll have to get the full this house before I can. It's like a reward for finishing all my chores, and the chores are unfortunately never ending.
I hear you.
Over on the CPU side, Intel unveiled their Tiger Lake mobile CPUs. Now, this would be a lot more exciting for the broader tech crowd if Apple didn't already announce that they were. So Intel's kind of prolonged extension of their current RPUs for what used to be called Ultrabooks, and low TDP 12 to 28 watt profiles. Some even going as low as 7 watts, and so thin and light with 4 cores, 8 threads. There's an i3 with 2 core 8 threads, and it seems like another minor step up. 20% CPU improvement over the last generation. Graphics that are fast, although it's all integrated graphics, and they also paired this with the announcement of the rebranding of their Athena initiative, which was kind of their Ultrabook successor. These are kind of list of qualifiers that you want manufacturers or third-party partners, OEM partners, to meet in terms of battery life, in terms of usability, and the feature set, and what parts you have to buy from Intel. And now it's called Evo. So if you're in the market for an Ultrabook, PC-based laptop, this holiday, you'll probably see a lot of that Evo branding. And they're seeing a lot of competition from AMD. So good luck to them. Good luck to Intel, and all the competition's good, forcing them to
Yes.
beef up their performance and lower their prices.
Yes.
We're also, now that we're in September and getting close to probably the new Apple event, even though they didn't announce it was going to be pushed back because of COVID. We're seeing increase in number of the rumors of what will be announced. And from Mark Gurman over Bloomberg, it sounds like he thinks that they will be doing 5G iPhones for this year, that they're going to build 75 million of them. So that tells me there will probably be a distinguishing factor between the 5G phones and not 5G phones. I really hope they don't shove 5G down consumers' throats as a way to get some of the best other hardware features on the high end, because I have no need for 5G and I know it's very expensive for that. But it's one of those things. That's the feature I'm least excited about this year's phones, and I'm more excited about the additional camera systems and the AR functionality.
Me too. But I wouldn't turn down 5G. And knowing you're going to get the Pro anyway. So what are you talking about?
Oh, I'm on update. I mean, that's if the whatever plan I'm on with the 11 Pro, I don't have a Max, right? If they force the best features and they kind of group 5G with some extra feature that I do want on a Max and force me to upgrade to that, I'm going to resist that, because I have no need for 5G. We're working out of our homes. Like, people are talking about, like, why do we even have cell phone plans now when we're mostly using Wi-Fi, right? Like, that's
true.
Big expense that I'm using very infrequently right now, but we're kind of locked into that. Like, and these networks are not being taxed demand wise in the world, as fewer people are out. The other report is that there's going to be a new iPad. And I think we actually saw some leaked photos of this, so I believe it to be credible. A new iPad Air that's going to look more like the iPad Pro, kind of edge-to-edge screen. The big rumor there is that Touch ID, the button, will go away from the bottom, but they're going to incorporate Touch ID in the power button, which would probably be less secure, less surface area. But
maybe you have to swipe it.
No, no. I mean, we've seen we've seen other phones with fingerprint sensors that have a more oblong shape, that aren't just circles, that don't cover the entire surface area of your fingerprint. And certainly, from a biometric standpoint, there's enough data in that point to give you a good reading. And Touch ID has never been about security as much as it has been about like a light deterrence, right, and a convenience factor. It's so. They're finding that balance between it being as strong as two-factor authentication, or just being like an unlock code,
right?
And I'm glad it's not going. I'll be glad it's not going away, because I know some people prefer Touch ID over Face ID, and it speaks to how Face ID adoption has not been accepted in the wider Apple community yet as much. I mean, Touch ID is still on their laptops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other product refreshes they're expecting, new watch, of course, the first over-the-ear headphones. Maybe they'll call those AirPods, because they'll still be wireless, and maybe even a smaller HomePod speaker. Which I
vote for no more covering Apple rumors. I vote that we only cover Apple news.
I think it's worth speculating on. I mean, it's not going to change their path, but I think it's the rumors give us a sense of what the expectations are.
I suppose, but it's, I think that these are pretty boilerplate expectations. Like we all kind of expect that. So it's fine. Yeah. I just, anybody can make predictions.
Yeah. Jeremy, I'm gonna let you know that your video has frozen. So it might be that your battery is dead. So I've not been able to see for the past couple minutes your visual responses. You kind of Zoom tricked me.
Look at that. There you go. Yeah, get this out of there.
Oh, it's so funny. Well, it's a seamless technical change. What a magic trick you did.
Changed inputs.
Yeah. If you thought a $1,000 phone was expensive, Samsung announced the Galaxy Z Fold 2 earlier this week. It ships on the 18th of this month, and it will be $2,000.
What is wrong with people? No, thank you.
Prestige products? I really don't know who's going to buy this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, celebrities, I guess, people with just like money doesn't matter and they wanted something interesting and they don't care if it's an Apple product. No, all celebrities want Apple products. I don't know who's buying this.
Right, exactly, right? Right. I don't I don't know. Okay, a couple more tech stories. Our friend Vindra Hardware over at Engadget wrote this interesting story on Engadget about Leica, the stop motion company, using Intel AI technology to essentially help with the rotoscoping of their film. So if you saw Leica's most recent film, Missing Link, they've been, of course, integrating more composited elements into their stop motion animation. So the characters primarily are still those classic 3D printed for them. 3D printed figures with swappable heads and armatures, and they move, one frame at a time, maybe animated on twos even. But surrounding those characters are, of course, CG environments and maybe other CG characters as well, things shot on blue screen. But something that people might not know is there are a lot of the actual stop motion characters themselves that also get rotoscoped out. We're talking about seam lines between the parts, things around the eyes, kind of almost like what Hollywood does with some of their actors and making them look a little younger. That's been a largely manual process in the past. So much of the FX team over at Leica is that rotoscoping, and they've developed technology with Intel to automate some of that. And while the technology is impressive and it sure saves a lot of artists' time and hours, I'd say leave it in. Like, why not wear the animation and the characters on its sleeve? And I think it's giving into. I would love to see a version, I guess, of the film without any of the composite elements. Leave all the armatures in. My favorite parts of watching those films
The
are
ending.
seeing exactly the pull back behind the scenes. And if there's a version that that they can leave the rods that get plugged into the back, and I know there's going to be some amount of CG. This is not a CG is bad argument. That's, I think, pretty ignorant. Like, some amount of CG is always going to be required for compositing, for rotoscoping, but as an artistic and editorial decision to rotoscope out seam lines from the faces of these characters, I say let the puppets wear that on their sleeve and on their faces.
Hey, I'd love to see that too, but I think that rotoscoping them out is a part of the lineage, a part of the tradition of big studio animation. Like they have always done that. Going back to when when they were able to composite frames of drawn art together, and you could see like the nastiness of that. And then they were able to improve that and give things better solid outlines and improve the compositing. They've always attempted to eliminate those byproducts of the making process. They don't want to show the lines that existed, as rough sketches. They want everything to look pristine and finished. And it's no surprise to me that they want to do this. But I do think that their process is way more fascinating than most people give it credit for. People who just casually watch the movie. I think that I would love for people to see and think more about how these movies are made.
Yeah, and it's something obviously we want them to continue, right? Like, as they like, there is an innate look to the animation, the tangibility. It's not just like the benefits you get from having photographing a physical object with the lighting, and you do get all those benefits as well. But animators, physically moving objects versus moving them on a rigged character, they can exaggerate, and it's less about, again, the difference of realism and more about what believability means, and that spectrum of like hyper realism and
Right.
the signature of an animator being hand moved on a puppet, and so much of like the fabrication details, of course, on the puppets that you just get of the real light and real physics of it all. Did you see that Popeye animation that went around social media earlier this week?
No.
When you're mentioning of like animation, the history of animation, made me think of that. So of course, Disney famously had the multiplane camera, right? If you go to the Walt Disney Family Museum, you see one of those actually mounted between two floors. And the frames of animation could be reduced or set further back to create foreground background parallax, while you would also be swapping out the animation of a character. And that kind of foreground background is like this hallmark of animation even today. You look at a movie like then the background is done by a different type of artist and then physics effects and visual effects. Interesting anecdote in that in Popeye, which was done by the Fleischer Studios, back camera. That was a stereo optical process. And you got to Google this. So Google Fleischer setback camera. And it was a camera with the animation plane, and on the furthest back, so this wasn't top down, this is kind of still just on a flat surface.
Mm-hmm.
On the back, the background wasn't planes of glass. The background was an actual rotating turntable,
Neat.
physical model that they would rotate along with the foreground character animation. And so what you actually saw was a real animation, frame by frame animation that was filmed this way. They can find on YouTube. Yeah, it's customers.
Okay.
So your invitation, you get an invite to pre-order the PS5 based on interest and PlayStation activities.
It's not equal opportunity. Wow.
Yeah.
Is that legal? I don't know if that's legal.
Yeah, of course it is.
I don't know, dude.
They can reward their fans. There's no reason. They're not requiring you to do this.
I love that. I love that the reward is I can give them money.
I mean, for fans, like this is, I think it's a brilliant move, but it also, again, speaks to, we think will be a shortage in supply, or maybe this is all kind of their plan to hype up the demand for it, to get their biggest fans into PS5. We just don't know. This kind of back and forth of the game of chicken between Microsoft and Sony for pricing and for availability is something that's frankly getting a little boring, because I just want to know how much these things will cost and how we'll be able to buy them. Let the consumers be happy. Let us buy things.
I wonder how long there will be a shortage of them, because inevitably there will be, even though they were supposed to have upped their numbers by like 2x. I think there's going to be a problem well into next year.
Yeah. I think that does it for the podcast, not for the podcast, for our section here. But we do have some pinball, right? I don't even have a pinball music cue.
I'm a pinball nerd. Ding, 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 ding. There's a new pinball machine, Norm. And
what is this? Who is this from?
It's from Stern. You know, they do about 4 games a year. And I'm sorry that Kishore Hari isn't here, because this one features a big purple man we all know likes to wear a glove, likes stones. It is called Avengers Infinity Quest.
Thanos
is on the back glass, big, bright, and bold. And this Stern, as I'm sure you know, made an Avengers game 8 years ago.
Of course.
This is not a remake of that game. This is another Avengers game. I'm not sure that. I wonder if another pinball company has done this. I mean, obviously, there's like the Star Trek pinball machines. It's interesting though. Like Stern very rarely revisits licenses. I wonder if they've done that in the past 20 years since, besides this. But the first game made by George Gomez, great designer of Monster Bash, classic Williams pinball table.
Of course.
This one, however, even better, designed by Keith Elwin, the same genius, top-ranked pinball player turned designer who made Iron Maiden and Jurassic Park. Both incredible games that were absolute home runs by all accounts. So this one, everyone is very excited for it because it's the same designer. It has some interesting ramps. It has some interesting shots. And it was announced today. We will see live streams of it being played in about a week on Deadflip on Twitch. And they should start shipping a month from now. So that's it.
Wow. It looks like they have what's just typical of Stern these days, a big LCD screen in the back with animations that I'm sure they've populated. This is, of course, based on the comic license, not the movie license. So it's not Infinity War. It's comic book art throughout and very cosmic theme comic book characters. But you have a lot of your traditional Avengers characters, from the Hulk to Doctor Strange. It even looks like they have one of the Doctor Strange's mystical powers, but it is a magnet, and it captures the ball and it spins it around.
No, that doesn't. There are games that do that, but that spinning disc on the Pro, it spins, and I'm sure it does something point wise. But on the Premium and the LE, it will actually rise up.
Rise up.
and then the balls will enter it, and you'll see they go into a little subway, and you can see through the playfield to the balls rolling beneath it, and they'll be lit up underneath different colors. It's cool. There's the premium also has a infinity gauntlet with that lights up the different stones. And I don't the thing I'm most interested in, they have a ramp that can be shot from any of 3 flippers, which is that's new to me. Like I don't know if that's been done before. I don't think so. They also have a cool lock mechanism, which is kind of like those roller coasters where the train gets pulled back up a hill and then released. So this lock mechanism, you shoot the ball up a ramp and it goes vertical, and then it gets held by a magnet up on top of this ramp, and then it would be released and it rolls back down super fast. Really clever design. So Keith is a genius. I can't wait to play it.
It's expensive too. If prices just gone up for their models, of course, this is Pro Premium Limited, but the Pro one starts at $6,200.
Yep, that's pretty. I mean, it went up $100 since Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they've been going up maybe $100 every game. Yeah, it doesn't. Thankfully, pinball machines can earn their money back in a couple of years on location. Well, less than that in some cases. And if you keep them as a hobby, they depreciate, but not as much as you might think.
It's still a big capital investment to start.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But yes, so is life.
Wise words from this podcast. Wise men said them. You know what they should do? I have a recommendation. If anyone who works at Stern wants to make a amazing pinball machine,
what?
They should make one based on Action Park. I just watched this documentary on HBO Max. Have you seen this?
No.
It's a documentary about this theme park that was the most dangerous theme park in America.
Yeah. Great idea.
Class Action Park was the name of the documentary, but Action Park, and the documentary goes through all the ill-conceived and dangerous, life-threatening rides that were set up in this theme park. And I think those rides would make for great ramps in a pinball machine.
Yeah, they'd have to like hit the glass though, and like it would shatter.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Injure you or the balls themselves.
Chance of electric shock through the flipper buttons.
Oh, love it. Design right here. Player term designer, Jeremy Williams. All right, let's move on.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
2 weeks out now from Facebook Connect. I had to catch myself for saying that.
Yep.
And there's some news that's ramped up. So not hardware news, but software news. First of all, I think at the Gamescom live stream event, there were 2 VR games announced, or 2 VR games shown. One Sam & Max VR, kind of unexpected. It looks okay. I don't know if it's exactly what I want from a Sam & Max game.
Did you play Sam & Max?
Yeah, the adventure game? Absolutely.
Yep. You did? I never played it. That was I just kind of missed it. It was back when I wasn't playing too many new games. I guess I was in high school or something. But yeah, I love what I've seen, and it looks funny. I mean, I love the sense of humor. I love the old school nature of it. I just don't know if it's what I want from a VR game either.
That's it. Exactly. I think they're adventure games at heart, and adventure games, require a lot of characters, a lot of animations. And if they just kind of use this to tap into novel VR gimmicks, then that's less exciting to me. I'd rather just see a machinima in VR, like a whole animation with the writing and the voice acting. We also got to see some new footage. So it turns out it's not what we anticipated. What I speculated was going to be a Quest announcement, but no, Medal of Honor Above and Beyond. It was more that they dropped a full trailer for it, and that the launch will be out this holiday. Did you watch this trailer?
Looks great.
It does.
It doesn't?
No, it does. It does.
Yeah, but you sound like it doesn't.
There's a but coming, right?
Okay.
It does, but we're in a post Half-Life Alyx world, and the single player, because we played a little bit of it last year at Oculus Connect. Was that last year? Oh my God, it was last year. When we previewed it, and parts of those levels look, pretty complete already. I'm just wondering what have they been doing this past year, and what have they not shown us yet? Because they haven't shown us multiplayer. Like, that's what I'm excited for. Like, I want to see. I know the campaign. I'm going to play through that. My expectations are tempered, because we are in a post Half-Life Alyx world, so I don't imagine that level of storytelling or interactivity.
No, hold on now. I kind of disagree with your premise a little bit here. Like, and I know this is dangerous territory because Half-Life Alyx is kind of sacred, and I get that, and it should be. It's a 10 out of 10. I love the game. I did want at one point say negative things about it because it didn't live up to my expectations after the first couple levels, but I finished the game, and I think it's a masterpiece. However, like I also think, like Half-Life was a masterpiece, but No One Lives Forever was also a masterpiece. I loved it, and it did a lot more with the genre. And I feel like this kind of looks like it's doing the same kind of thing as No One Lives Forever, where it takes you into so many different environments. That whereas Half-Life Alyx is pretty much, Citadel City, what's it called? City 17?
City 17, and a linear story. Like you're just playing one continuous 6-hour adventure. Here, you're jumping between places. There are vignettes.
In Half-Life Alyx, like there's a few NPCs that you interact with, but not too terribly many. And those were great highlights. And there's like at least as many in this trailer alone of interesting NPCs that are engaging you, that have a lot of personality, that have, bright costumes. And looks like I'm very intrigued by this. I think this looks very exciting. I am as excited for this maybe as I was for Half-Life Alyx.
Certainly, there's production value here. There's no doubt, just diversity of environments, and it will be revisiting, World War II in VR, and there's no better team to do that. It's just gonna be a different type of game experience, right? It's gonna be more of an adventure. More of like an action game than the kind of heavy story driven personal adventure that we got with Half-Life Alyx. It's all going to also be about the combat encounters, right? When what we played last year, it was very typical run and gun VR shooting with enemies and great animations, running out of doors and firefights and stuff. But that's the kind of I want to get lost in a firefight, and I don't know if I'll be able to feel like that just yet against AI, which is why I'm also really just waiting for their multiplayer announcements.
Yeah, me too. That'll be great. There's no date yet announced, right? We expect that maybe at Connect.
Just holiday. It's still this year.
Okay.
And it will be, obviously an Oculus exclusive. Also Oculus exclusive and not quite a game, but we finally saw some more of Horizons.
I think this is the first in-game we've seen from Horizon, right?
There's a YouTube video of in-game. There are some people who've been part of the closed beta. And lots of interesting things that we're learning about the experience in the beta. For one, they are going to be very aware of moderation and people's safety and feeling safe. And so there will actually be real people content moderating or, as guides or helping people navigate the experience. I don't know what that ratio of player to moderator will be, but that's fascinating to think of, that there will be paid people wearing presumably Quest headsets, if not Rift S, in the dev capacity, helping people out. And then also just from a technology standpoint, there's no eye tracking in the Quest or the Rift S. So how do you get social interaction to work? And some of the things they've been doing, it sounds like what John Carmack experimented with years ago was a way to lock eyes onto players. When based on the gestures, and this could be through some deep learning, but when they think you're talking to someone, an avatar is talking to another avatar, your eyes will lock contact.
It's interesting. Echo Arena went final recently, and it's been an open beta for a while. They went final on Quest, I think, last week, and with that announcement, they also released a new version of their room system. I forget what they're calling it, but it's the same kind of thing where there'll be moderators in the lobbies. And the different lobbies will have different themes. Like they'd be like older, mature gamers, or like in the competitive sect, and then there's maybe the 12 and under crowd. Who knows? But in order to form a club, you have to sort of get enough of a following first, and have moderators available and that kind of thing. So I'm so glad, because I've always said VR needs moderation, or desperately, even more so than chat rooms or in typical flat screen games. The invasion of personal space and the feeling when you're confronted is so much more personal that you have to have strong moderation tools. I'm glad to see Facebook making that a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not cheap and it's not easy. And I think, they're building tools for people to create their own experience in this in a very Minecraft kind of way. And that kind of emergent gameplay, emergent social behavior, emergent experiences is the potential of a social space like this, a metaverse space like this. And so they're putting a lot of effort behind it, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more as we get closer to Connect. I'm just going to call it Connect now because that makes more sense, right? Is that right? Yeah, Connect.
You know what? If you say OC, I'll know what you're talking about.
OC?
Yeah.
For the OGs?
Yeah.
All right. OC.
Yeah.
7.
Keep it real.
Connect 7. We'll workshop it. Keep on workshopping. All right. That does it for the podcast this week. We'll be back next week. Well, at least I know I'll be, Jeremy, I know you might be taking the week off, but we might be getting some substitute in. Talk next week. Neuralink, a big topic that we want to wait for Kishore to talk about.
Jack in,
indeed. And an outro this week created by Black Powder Engine. Thank you for creating that outro. And thank you all out there for listening. Thanks for creating the intros too. Keep them coming. Send them over Twitter DM to my email. It's Norman@Tested. And just upload a SoundCloud. I'll be able to download that. We'll give you credit and we'll play it in the future, guaranteed. Okay. Once again, outro courtesy of Black Powder Engine. And here it goes. Never listened to this one yet.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
Tested.
More trailers. You had the second full trailer for Wonder Woman 1984, still hopefully coming out this October.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I felt about the lightning vine swinging. That was a lot.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, that's from the comics.
That's the best part.
That was for us.
Okay.
I love that.
That was pretty sweet.
Stand by my comments. Still very excited for lightning swinging.
I too stand by my comments.
All right. See you next week. Bye.